I'm 32 years old and I've made a number of mistakes in my life, enough to where significant damage was done to me spiritually, mentally, emotionally, including those around me. And all those mistakes were predicated on my refusal to learn lessons, life lessons, the easy way, which is through advice given to me by coaches, mentors, teachers, friends, everyone around me. That's the easy way. That's the cheat code to getting through life, is taking good advice from people you trust. And I never seemed to do that, even to people I knew had my best interest at heart. And so I had to learn all those lessons the worst possible way. And the cost of that was so high. It almost wasn't worth the lesson at all. And when I wrote this book, Before You Go, it was with the intention of saving that rising generation from having to learn all those lessons the hardest possible way. I'm hoping at least one person out there can take one of these hard lessons and learn it the easy way instead of the worst way. In my experience as a teacher, as a coach, as a parent, as a mentor, I've noticed two major problems facing the young and rising generations, from late middle school, going through high school, college, first steps of career. And those two problems are doing enough damage that it's going to affect our culture in a very negative way if we don't do things proactively now to stop it, to mitigate that damage. One of these problems I'm very familiar with because I went through it. I know exactly what it looks like, what it feels like to be in their shoes, and I can completely empathize with it. The other one is very foreign to me. I don't understand it because I didn't have that particular experience of life. And I'm hoping to solve both of these, maybe not solve them, but be a part of the solution for both of these in the writing and releasing of Before You Go, now available on Amazon. The first problem is a breakdown in mental frameworks. So many of our young generation that are going up through high school and college, whenever they face adversity or even in their successes, there is a failure to see the world in a healthy way, a failure to see the humanity in other people, a failure to recognize the potential for good and bad within themselves. An understanding of their obligations, their duties, their role in society, and the role of other people, where their priorities should be. This breakdown in mental frameworks, how they see the world, is severely affecting their ability to operate in it as young adults and eventually mature adults that have to become a full part of society. That's going to affect our leaders. It's going to affect our doctors, our lawyers, our police officers, our justice of the peace. Our society will crumble if we don't have a citizenry that has a healthy outlook of life. And I went through that myself. I fully understand it. So I know what it's like to not look at the world in a healthy way, to not see the humanity of other people, to not have God at the center of your mental frameworks. And been there, done that. I'm hoping to avoid a significant portion of that young generation falling into that. The second problem is one I really don't have experience with, and that is a hatred or avoidance of reading. And I think that a lot of that has to come with the prevalence of screens in society, how common it is for a home to have a growing number of screens, whether that's smartphones, whether that's iPads, computers, MacBooks, laptops, theater rooms, all of this, and a reduction in the amount of books. So when I was growing up, I always had books in the home, and that's something I really credit my mom and dad to. They made sure that me and my siblings were always surrounded by books. Like I have a vivid childhood memory of the stairway wrapping around with bookshelves, just covered with everything from the classics to horror to biographies, history, all of that. And so when you're surrounded by knowledge like that, it makes it very hard to grow up with a distaste for reading. And yet, at least 8 out of 10 students that I would talk to, whether that was an athlete or an actual student in the classroom, always seem to have an avoidance of reading, a distaste for it. They'll begrudgingly do it to get through a class or to get through an assignment, but they're not going to go actively out to the library, pick out a book they have an interest in reading, and sit down and enjoy it, and then digest it and have a conversation about it. If anything, when I would see students walk past my classroom to go to the library, and I'd ask, well, what'd you pick out to read? Just genuine curiosity, what they were interested in. They would say, oh, I just grabbed something off the shelf. I just needed to get out of class for 5 minutes to check out a book. And it just blew me away. Like, you have an opportunity. You have this wonderful library that's full of good reading material, and you're going to pass that up just to take a mental break from class. So I get the mental break from class, but I don't understand the avoidance of reading. So the first part of Before You Go is really about addressing this first problem of healthy mindsets. It's about restoring people's ability to look at others around them and see their humanity. There's also a breakdown in faith. Now, what I've noticed is that there seems to be a swell of new religious tendencies in society. And I'm hoping that trend continues. But having God at the center, the real, true, living God at the center of your being, is going to be the source of every good thing that happens in your life. When I failed to recognize that as a young man, everything started going south very quickly. And that happened around 8th grade, freshman year in high school. And it was a long way down from there. And it was a hard way coming out. So the first part of this book is all just positive ways to look at the world, and very common sense things, things that you don't really think about. One of them in there is you don't know what you don't know, which sounds like a very obvious statement, something that you would say, well, duh, to, but we don't act that out. We might acknowledge that in theory, but we don't actually acknowledge it in our practice. So when we see someone behaving out of ignorance, we tend to assume that they're just out to get us. They're trying to destroy our lives. Well, that's not how that works. Most people are completely ignorant to what we're going through because they're wrapped up in their own troubles. And so, you don't know what you don't know. If something is outside your realm of knowledge, it's not just that you don't know. It's that you don't even have the understanding that there's something out there to not know. So I think a lot of fights and road rage and stuff like that's predicated on people just assuming that everyone's out to get them. And I understand tensions are high behind the wheel. The second part of this book is day-to-day healthy habits, just little things to incorporate in your day to make your stage of that early stage of adulthood transfer into middle age and your retirement years in a healthier way. So a lot of the problems you'll see with people in their older age, from middle age on, is that they didn't set up healthy lifestyle habits as young adults. They just kind of put their head down, got into the grinds, focused on one single thing, and let everything else go. A very common example of this is when you look at someone that's very financially well off. They've done well for themselves. You should, admire that. I admire people that have been able to accrue a lot of wealth and be able to pass that down to their own families. That's something admirable. I respect that. But then in their kind of blind pursuit of that, they look down and realize they're 100 pounds overweight, they haven't gone to church, or they haven't really been the spiritual leader of their household, and all these other areas of their life have become chaos. Because there are different areas of success that, you can't neglect them all in the pursuit of one. So, you got to prioritize, but you have to realize there is more forms of success than money. Healthy lifestyle habits that you can incorporate into your everyday routine is going to help so many young people. And as I said in my mental framework section, you are your habits. The things you do every single day really do make you up. It's not those enormous historic moments, because most of us never get that. Most of us never get that moment where we're on the front lines of a battle, where we jump in front of a moving train to save somebody. We don't have those newspaper moments. Our lives are filled with little moments, little points in time that build up like bricks to a house. And so what each of those bricks are is a single action, a habit that you have formed over time. So the second part of this book is all about healthy lifestyle habits, whether that's, reading 15 minutes a day, and that'll also build your love of reading, because the more you do it, the more you begin to appreciate it. That's working out 15 minutes a day. A problem I see with some young people is they smell, so they're not bathing. So there's one healthy habit that's just make sure you bathe. Don't be gross. There's one where it's learn to dance, learn to fight, not so that you can just go around picking fights all the time, but being able to defend yourself and those around you actually makes you more calm in situations where tempers rise, because you've got that understanding that if things go south, you have the ability to exert physical force to defend yourself, and you don't have to rely on placating a threat. The final part of this book I actually didn't include in the first edition of this book. I thought we didn't need it, and released the book. And over the next few months, I started realizing, I was just plain stupid. Because when you look around, you see so many problems in the world of dating. So that is the entire third section of this book before you go, is just on dating. Healthy habits, healthy mental frameworks just around relationships, building healthy relationships that lead to fruitful marriages. And when you go online, whether that's YouTube or TikTok or Instagram, X, it is full of garbage advice, just designed to create animosity and tension and just lewdness and negativity in the relationship between men and women. What I included in this last book are just a restoration of this old school way of boys and girls interacting with each other in a healthy way that brings out the best in them. And so this book means a lot to me, not just because it took a lot of effort, but because so many people in my life served as an inspiration for it. Not just the mentors, my coaches, my teachers, my parents, my grandparents, uncles, aunts, everyone that tried to give me advice that I just stubbornly ignored. They played a huge role in this book, because now I look back and I realize they were right. Especially, sorry, Dad. I know. One of the pieces of advice in here is tell your dad he's right before it's too late. And Dad, you're right about just about everything. But also to the people that I've taught and coached. Those athletes, those students, they mean the world to me. And I want them to find their way to heaven. I want them to find their way to true success, not just at the end of their life, but throughout their life. I want them to have, successful careers, successful relationships, and good families, healthy lifestyles. And I want the best for each and every one of them. And so a lot of love and care went into this book. And I'm hoping that not just the ones I've taught can benefit from this book, because the ones I taught, a lot of them got some of these lessons just in person from just basic conversations or the lesson plans themselves, where they were just kind of cooked into it. You kind of learn these inherently sometimes in the lessons. But I'm hoping other people out there that maybe don't have a mentor, that don't have a coach or a teacher that's really paying attention, that really wants the best for them, that they can manage to get their hands on a copy of this book and make their life better, to improve. So I'm praying for the success of this book, but more importantly, I'm praying for the success of all the young people who this book is meant for. So you can find it on Amazon.com. The book is Before You Go by Mr. H. That's just what my students used to call me, Mr. H. One of them used to say Mr. H, which was weird. But anyway, the book is Before You Go. I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for watching. Go read something.